Um, Imagine standing in a courtroom. You're on trial for murder. The air is stale, the wood paneling feels, oppressive, and the stakes are absolute. I mean, it's your freedom versus a life behind bars.
Worse. The absolute worst case scenario.
Exactly. And you look across the room at the prosecutor, the person whose sole professional objective is to just systematically destroy your narrative, dismantle your character, and lock you in a cage. And that prosecutor, well, is your husband.
Yeah, it is the ultimate nightmare scenario. You're fighting a war on two fronts, basically. You've got the machinery of the state on one side, and then, the intimate knowledge of the person who shares your bed on the other.
It's so intense. And that is the claustrophobic reality we're dissecting today. So welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're immersing you in Dissection of a Murder, which is this phenomenal legal thriller by Joe Murray.
It really is incredible.
Right. And our sources for this analysis include the novel's text, deep dive interviews regarding the author's background, and the massive critical reception the book has generated. Because our mission today isn't just to walk you through a plot.
No, definitely not.
We are going to deconstruct the mechanics of the courtroom. We want to show you how a trial, which, we assume is this sterile search for truth, is actually a highly orchestrated theater of psychological warfare.
And I think what's crucial here is that the author, Joe Murray, she doesn't just theorize about this theater. She operated within it. I mean, she is a former criminal barrister from Teesside in the north of England.
Oh, wow. So she knows exactly what she's talking about.
Exactly. When she describes, the texture of a horsehair wig or the specific exhaustion of a holding cell or even the subtle, quiet ways a judge can steer a jury, she's pulling from a reservoir of lived reality.
That makes it so much more chilling.
It does. The legal chicanery in this book is terrifying, specifically because it is plausible.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we get to the blood on the floor, and trust me, there's a lot of it, we need to talk about the cultural footprint of this book.
Right. The hype has been massive.
Yeah, the publishing industry has absolutely rallied around it. William Landay, the author of Defending Jacob, calls it a relentless, twisting legal drama.
High praise.
Totally. But the shorthand that keeps appearing in the reviews is what I kind of want to challenge. Sarah Vaughan, Isabel Broom, John Mars, they all use variations of the exact same phrase. They call it Gone Girl meets Anatomy of a Scandal, or Gone Girl meets The Silent Patient.
Yes, the classic marketing hook.
Right. I look at that and immediately put my guard up. I mean, every time a thriller features a female protagonist and a twist, marketing departments slap the next Gone Girl on the cover. So I have to ask you, does the source material actually justify throwing around that kind of heavy comparative weight?
It's a valid skepticism for sure. The publishing world leans heavily on that shorthand to signal a specific subgenre to readers. But, the comparison is actually structurally earned here.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, think about Anatomy of a Scandal. That book dissects the insidious nature of privilege, class, and the protected elite within old British institutions.
Yeah.
Dissection of a Murder uses the exact same scalpel on the British legal system. And as for the Gone Girl comparison, it's not merely about having a twist ending. It's about the fundamental unreliability of the narrative structure.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the dark psychology of domestic spaces, the masks that people wear to survive their own marriages. It's really about the weaponization of intimacy.
The weaponization of intimacy, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And that ties directly into the author's own origins, doesn't it?
It really does. The source text notes that Joe Murray grew up as a working-class girl in Teesside during the 1990s, and she was actively discouraged from pursuing a career at the bar.
Because it's such an exclusive world.
Exactly. The British legal system, historically, is an old boys' club. I mean, it's built on private school networks, Latin phrases, centuries-old dining rituals at the Inns of Court. Entering that world as an outsider requires a very specific kind of armor.
And that armor's heavy. You basically have to adopt a persona. And that outsider perspective deeply informs the protagonist, Leila Reynolds.
Absolutely. The overarching premise of the novel proposes that justice is rarely blind. Instead, the legal system is a staging ground.
Right, like a performance.
Yes. The verdict doesn't necessarily go to the person with the best facts. It goes to the person who tells the most compelling story and who can best manipulate the inherent cognitive biases of the jury.
So to understand how that manipulation works, we really have to look at the storytellers. The players on the board on the fatal night of September 6, 2024.
Let's set the scene.
Yeah. The catalyst for this entire labyrinth is the victim, Judge Anton Smythe. He's 56 years old, silver hair, impeccably tailored, an old-school Crown Court judge in Durham.
The picture of authority.
Totally. At his memorial service, the eulogies paint him as this paragon of civic virtue. I mean, they call him a juggernaut of legal intelligence with an impeccable moral compass. A devoted family man to his wife Sarah and their 18-year-old son Quinn.
He sounds perfect.
Right. He sounds like the marble statue of justice come to life.
Well, that is the official sanctioned narrative of the establishment. Institutions always protect their own legacy.
Oh, of course.
But the text is brilliant at exposing the rot behind the mahogany. The whispered bar gossip, which is the actual reality of Anton Smythe, reveals a predator shielded by a robe.
Classic.
Yeah. The source material highlights that he had a notorious wandering eye. It was an open secret in the robing rooms that young, attractive female pupils would receive leniency for mistakes in his courtroom, whereas male barristers would be publicly eviscerated.
Disgusting.
And it gets worse. He routinely took young female barristers to intimate pub lunches, leveraging his immense power over their fledgling careers.
So he's essentially the classic two-faced politician type. I mean, he hands down these moral judgments from an elevated bench during the day while completely exploiting the power dynamic of his position behind closed doors.
Exactly. And the system protects him because he is the system.
Which is infuriating. Now let's look at the man accused of murdering him, who is sitting at the absolute opposite end of the societal spectrum. Jack Millman.
A total contrast.
Completely. Jack is 32 years old. He works as a doorman at a highly secretive elite men's club called Temptation. And Jack was abandoned as a baby by drug-addicted parents. He grew up bouncing through the care system, and he has a documented history of burglary, theft, and violence.
If Anton Smythe is the shining success of the British class system, Jack Millman is its discarded refuse.
That is so true. And Jack wears that history physically. The text describes him as being built like a heavyweight fighter, or like a Magic Mike lead. Massive, muscular, covered in aggressive tattoos.
So visually striking.
Yeah, and if you're listening, just put yourself in the shoes of a middle-class juror for a second. You walk into court one, you see a dead, silver-haired, respected judge. Then you look at the man in the dock, a towering, heavily tattooed nightclub bouncer with a violent record.
The contrast does the work for the prosecution.
Exactly. Before a single piece of evidence is introduced, the jury's subconscious has already convicted him. He's the perfect physical vessel for their prejudices.
Yet Jack's psychology really defies those easy prejudices. Because of his profound childhood trauma, he views the entire apparatus of the state, the police, the courts, even his own lawyers, with deep, cynical suspicion.
He just won't play the game.
He refuses to. When he's arrested, he gives a no-comment interview to the police. He refuses to outline a defense for his legal team. He possesses this intense, almost feral loyalty to the few people he cares about, and he basically operates entirely as a lone wolf.
Which brings us to the two women tasked with keeping this lone wolf out of a maximum security prison.
Ah, yes, the defense team.
Let's introduce them. Our protagonist is Leila Reynolds, a 36-year-old barrister. And like the author, Leila has working-class Geordie roots. She grew up adjacent to poverty and criminality in Newcastle.
Which shapes everything about her.
It does. She is fiercely proud of her survival, to the point where she actively refuses to soften her northern accent to fit in with her posh colleagues.
And retaining that accent is actually a significant act of rebellion.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in the British legal ecosystem, dialect and accent are historically weaponized to gauge intellect and class. Her colleagues in chambers, who are predominantly male and privately educated, by the way, they nickname her Brittany.
As in Britney Spears.
Yes, simply because she had long blonde hair when she joined. It is a calculated, sexist dismissal designed to shrink her. Consequently, Leila is driven by this desperate burning need to prove she isn't an imposter.
That's awful, but it explains so much of her drive. And assisting Leila is her instructing solicitor, Davina Jessup.
Davina is fascinating.
She is a pragmatist to her core. She works for Jessup's, the biggest firm in Durham, alongside her husband, and they handle the heaviest, ugliest criminal cases. Davina notoriously advises clients to give no-comment interviews to the police.
She knows how the game is played.
Yeah, right. The source text actually makes point of saying that Davina blurs the line between lawyer and criminal.
Davina represents the gritty, subterranean reality of criminal defense. She's the one standing in those windowless holding cells, smelling of bleach and despair, dealing directly with the fallout of society's failures.
Right, the front lines.
Exactly. This creates a razor-sharp contrast with the pristine, elevated world of judges like Anton Smythe. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Leila and Davina are the mechanics covered in grease. Anton is the executive in the showroom.
I love that analogy. Okay, so we have Leila, an ambitious, working-class defense barrister, fighting to save a silent, traumatized doorman accused of killing a judge. I mean, that is a steep enough mountain to climb.
It really is.
But her primary adversary in the courtroom isn't the police detective. It isn't the forensic pathologist. It is the lead prosecutor, Julian Kessler, who, as we established earlier, is her husband.
The ultimate conflict of interest.
Let's talk about Julian. He's 47, dark hair with a silver streak. He's a King's Counsel, an elite silk. He only handles murder cases, and he practically never loses.
A total heavyweight.
Yeah, but the power dynamic here is so layered. Because 13 years ago, when Leila was a 23-year-old law student, Julian was her pupil master. He literally graded her performance. He taught her the law.
Now they're married.
Now they're married, and he is trying to defeat her in her first major murder trial. I need you to explain how this is legally permissible.
It sounds wild, I know.
Because to anyone outside the legal profession, a husband prosecuting a wife in a murder trial sounds like an immediate mistrial. Like, how does that happen?
It appears completely absurd, but it's anchored in a foundational doctrine of the British bar, known as the cab rank rule.
The cab rank rule.
Yes. So barristers are self-employed, independent advocates. They share office space and administrative costs in what are called chambers, but they are not a corporate firm. The cab rank rule, which dates back centuries, by the way, dictates that a barrister cannot refuse a case simply because they find the client abhorrent or the cause unpopular.
Oh, I see.
If they're qualified and the fee is appropriate, they must take the case. Just like a taxi driver at a rank must take the next passenger in line.
Right, so the theory being that even the most reviled person in society deserves competent representation.
Exactly. The Bar Standards Board Code of Conduct insists that barristers are essentially professional mercenaries. They must maintain absolute integrity, honesty, and client confidentiality.
Okay, that makes sense in theory.
Right. And as long as those walls hold, they can oppose anyone. They can oppose a colleague from the desk next door, and yes, they can oppose a spouse. They are expected to conceptually detach their personal lives from their advocacy.
But come on, human beings aren't conceptual machines. I mean, you can't just compartmentalize your marriage when you take off the horsehair wig.
No, you really can't.
And the text shows how deeply toxic this dynamic becomes. Because Julian doesn't detach. He weaponizes his seniority. He treats their marriage like an extension of his courtroom dominance.
Oh, absolutely. He's incredibly manipulative.
There is this deeply uncomfortable scene that illustrates his gaslighting perfectly. Leila discovers she's been highlighted in the Legal 500, which, for those who don't know, is a highly prestigious directory for the profession.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah. The publication calls her a future bright star with an intuitive style. And for someone from her background, this is monumental. It's objective validation of her intellect.
But notice how Julian dismantles that validation. They're away on a romantic weekend, drinking a 150-pound bottle of Chateauneuf du Pape. And Julian casually drops the bomb that the review wasn't objective at all. He tells her he asked his friend, Max Westwick, to insert that specific quote as a personal favor to him.
It's just chilling. He tells her, "You're married to someone more senior. With that come perks. Embrace them."
He's awful.
He acts like a benevolent king granting a peasant a title. It's like he's a puppeteer who gives you a trophy just so he can remind you he bought it. He's actively rewriting her reality, making her believe her own talent is a mirage and that her survival in the profession relies entirely on his influence.
That is the textbook definition of gaslighting. And, Julian's need for absolute control is rooted in intense insecurity.
Oh, for sure.
Which the author brilliantly highlights through the specter of his ex-wife, Sienna Fox.
Oh, right. Sienna.
Yes. Sienna is a glamorous, successful solicitor. When their marriage imploded, the pervasive rumor across the legal community was that Sienna was having an affair with Kieran.
Wait, Kieran, who was Anton Smythe's former pupil, right?
Not coincidentally, yes. And Julian engaged in a scorched earth campaign to ruin her reputation. The sheer vindictiveness he still harbors reveals a man who is terrified of public humiliation.
So he's deeply insecure. Which means Leila isn't just fighting a prosecutor. She's fighting a man whose fragile ego cannot sustain a public defeat, especially not at the hands of his own wife and former student.
The stakes for him are entirely personal.
Right. So that brings us to the actual battleground. The physical evidence from the night of September 6th.
Yes. Let's look at the crime scene.
You're in Jack's flat, situated above the Innocence Club. At 11:07 p.m., Jack calls the emergency services. He calmly tells the operator, "Judge Smythe from Durham Crown Court is dying in my flat. I've been here all night."
Very matter of fact.
Yeah. The police arrive, they arrest Jack, and he immediately goes silent.
Leaving the lead investigator, DCI Brady, to construct a narrative entirely from the physical remnants in the room.
And the remnants make absolutely no logical sense. I mean, let's start with the murder weapon. It's a 10-kilogram kettlebell, black and electric blue. The pathologist, Dr. Parker, confirms this is what crushed Anton's skull. But the weapon wasn't wiped down with bleach. It wasn't tossed into a canal. It wasn't buried. It was wiped of fingerprints, though they find Anton's DNA on the rounded side. And then, get this, it was placed exactly back where it belonged.
Right, acting as a bedroom doorstop.
Yes. Why would anyone do that?
Well, this creates a fascinating interpretive divide between the prosecution and the defense. DCI Brady looks at that and sees panic. He argues that only a disorganized, unintelligent amateur would strike a fatal blow and then put the murder weapon back on the floor where they found it. He calls it an amateurish mistake.
I struggle to buy that logic, and so does Leila. I mean, Jack is a veteran of the criminal justice system. He's been navigating police procedures since he was 10 years old.
Exactly.
He mentors a local kid, which is why he bought the kettlebell in the first place. Leila looks at the scene and argues that a hardened, seasoned criminal like Jack would never make such an elementary mistake. It contradicts his entire psychological profile.
And the anomalies really compound when you examine Jack's clothing.
Oh my gosh, the clothing. The Coca-Cola.
Yeah, let's talk about the shirt.
When the police arrest Jack, he's wearing his T-shirt back to front and inside out, and the fabric is soaked in Coca-Cola. I mean, if you're listening, think about the physiological reality of a murder. Adrenaline is spiking, the fight-or-flight response is fully engaged.
Right, your body is in overdrive.
So why would a cold-blooded killer stop, take his shirt off, spill soda on it, and then put it back on backward before calling 999? It's absurd.
It is absurd. It suggests chaos. It suggests a desperate, frantic scramble in the dark, perhaps a sudden struggle.
But the prosecution steamrolls right past this anomaly. And this leads us to the most damning aspect of the investigation: the evidence the police actively chose to ignore.
A breadcrumbs left lying on the floor.
Yes, Jack claims his primary phone was stolen hours before the murder. But during the search, the police uncovered a burner phone hidden in the flat.
And the data on it is staggering.
1,284 text messages sent over 7 months between Jack and a completely unidentified number, whom we'll call Witness X. There are no voice calls, just hundreds of late-night texts. And DCI Brady assumes it's a drug-dealing line and barely investigates it.
It's such lazy police work, and the forensic sweep of the flat is equally chaotic. The crime scene investigators find 5 13-pound cocktail glasses scattered around the living space.
Right.
2 of these glasses have distinct different shades of lipstick on the rims. They collect 7 strands of female hair near Anton's body. They pull unidentified fingerprints off a lighter. And they find fresh semen belonging to Jack on the sofa.
I mean, the flat is practically glowing with third-party DNA. There were obviously other people, specifically women, in that room, but DCI Brady just shrugs it off.
He doesn't even care.
If I'm a juror, I want to know why the police aren't running down those leads. Isn't forensic science supposed to be the ultimate objective truth in a modern trial?
It is supposed to be, yes. But the system is run by humans subject to cognitive biases. What the author is illustrating here is a phenomenon known in investigative psychology as tunnel vision or confirmation bias.
Tunnel vision.
Yeah. When the police walked into that flat, what did they see? They saw a giant, tattooed man with a criminal record standing next to a dead judge. The brain seeks the path of least cognitive resistance.
The easy answer.
Exactly. DCI Brady formed a narrative in the first 5 minutes. The thug killed the judge. Once that narrative locks in, the brain subconsciously discards any anomalous data like lipstick, burner phones, or backward T-shirts. That complicates the easy story.
That's terrifying.
They didn't investigate the glasses because they already had their villain.
Wow. They prioritized closing the case over finding the truth, which sets the stage for the main event, the trial itself.
Here we go.
We enter Court 1 at Newcastle Crown Court. Mrs. Justice Brightman is presiding. This is where the book shifts from a police procedural into a masterclass on courtroom theatricality.
Oh, the theatricality is off the charts. Julian Kessler treats the courtroom like a lockroom interrogation where he controls the oxygen. He completely understands that trials are won in the subconscious of the jury.
His opening maneuvers are just devastating. He doesn't just stand behind a lectern and read facts. He physically dominates the space. He leans back against the wooden benches. It's a calculated posture of supreme confidence and territorial ownership.
It's a dominant male power move.
Yes, he's non-verbally telling the jury, I am the authority here, you are safe with me, and then he deploys his witnesses with clinical precision.
Like Dr. Parker.
Exactly. He called Dr. Parker the pathologist. Julian meticulously walks him through the blunt force trauma to Anton's right temple, definitively establishing that the blow came from behind or from the side.
And that specific forensic detail is a kill shot to the defense.
How so?
Well, by proving the blow came from behind, Julian instantly neutralizes any claim of self-defense. You cannot argue that you were fighting for your life against an imminent threat if you struck an unarmed man in the back of the head. Yeah, he traps Leila before she can even begin to build a narrative.
But Leila's fighting for her life, too. And she gets her moment during the cross-examination of DCI Brady.
She is brilliant here.
Cross-examination is an art form, and she uses it to just dismantle Brady's arrogance. She doesn't ask open-ended questions. She boxes him in.
Yes.
She forces this veteran detective to stand in front of 12 ordinary citizens and admit that he looked at lipstick-stained glasses at a murder scene and just ignored them. She forces him to admit he didn't run the DNA on the female hair.
It's so satisfying to read.
It is. She paints this vivid picture of a lazy, arrogant police force that couldn't be bothered to do their jobs.
And here we must introduce a concept developed by communication theorist Walter Fisher called the narrative paradigm.
Okay, tell me about that.
Fisher argued that human beings are essentially homo narrans storytelling animals. We don't evaluate arguments based purely on logic or cold facts. We evaluate them based on narrative coherence. Does the story hang together? And narrative fidelity? Does the story ring true to our understanding of the world?
Interesting.
So Leila knows the jury walked in with a narrative. The tattooed thug is guilty. To win, she cannot just present forensic anomalies. She has to offer a better story.
So she uses Brady's cross-examination to shift the narrative.
Exactly. She shifts it from violent criminal to corrupt, lazy police framing an underdog.
It is a masterful pivot, but it isn't enough to secure an acquittal on its own. Eventually, the defense has to play its final card. Jack Millman takes the stand.
A huge risk.
Massive. Remember, Jack has refused to give his own lawyers a defense statement. Julian is furious because he's flying blind into the cross-examination. And Jack steps into the witness box and detonates a bomb that shatters the entire trial.
He finally breaks his silence and provides a narrative that seamlessly absorbs all the bizarre physical evidence that the police ignored.
Jack testifies that he wasn't running a drug line. Those 12,284 text messages on the burner phone. He was engaged in a massive, intense 7-month love affair with a married woman, the mysterious witness X.
The puzzle pieces start coming together.
Right. She was trapped in an abusive marriage, and they were desperate for each other. Witness X was in his flat on the night of the murder.
Suddenly, the perfume, the strands of hair, the lipstick on the cocktail glasses, it all has narrative coherence.
But the real bombshell is why Anton Smythe came to the flat. Jack testifies that a month prior, Anton's 18-year-old son, Quinn, was the driver in a horrific hit-and-run that killed a local boy named Louis Sorrington.
A huge reveal.
Jack found out. Jack cornered Quinn and demanded he turn himself in to the police, threatening to expose him to the victim's family if he didn't. Anton, desperate to protect his son's future at Cambridge, went to Jack's flat in the middle of the night to silence the blackmailer.
It provides the missing piece, motive.
Yes.
Anton wasn't a random victim. He was an aggressor protecting his bloodline.
Exactly. Jack says Anton offered him money, begged him to stay quiet. But during the confrontation, Anton realizes that witness X is hiding in the bedroom. Anton realizes there is a second witness to his son's crime.
He panics.
He panics, grabs a kitchen knife, and lunges. Jack and Anton engage in a violent struggle in the kitchen. In the chaos, Jack's shirt is soaked in Coca-Cola, forcing him to hastily throw it back on inside out.
And Jack's delay in calling 999, it wasn't the cold calculation of a killer.
No.
Jack claims he needed those frantic minutes to get the terrified witness X out of the flat and down the fire escape so her identity wouldn't be exposed and her abusive husband wouldn't find out.
Which explains everything.
This testimony is a masterstroke of narrative fidelity. It plays beautifully to the jury's subconscious desires. I mean, they want to believe in the trope of the noble savage, the rough criminal with a heart of gold who will risk a life sentence to protect the woman he loves.
It is so much more emotionally resonant than Julian Schreiber pathology reports.
Infinitely more.
It's an incredible piece of storytelling. But it leaves one massive suffocating question hanging over Court 1. Who is witness X?
Right.
Who is the woman Jack is willing to go to prison for?
This is the apex of the novel. Everything we have discussed, the evidence, the trial, the psychological warfare, hinges on this single identity.
Okay, if you're doing the dishes or driving right now, I need you to focus. Lean in. Because the author pulls off an astonishing reveal. I'm going to read the subtext directly.
Brace yourself.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Witness X, the married woman having the affair. The woman in the bedroom is Leila.
Yep.
Leila Reynolds. The defense barrister, currently cross-examining the police in front of the jury, is the woman Jack is protecting. Leila is the killer.
It is a profound structural shock that demands we immediately re-examine every single event in the book through this terrifying new lens.
My mind is still reeling from this. Let's walk it back. The burner phone. The 12,284 texts. While Julian was asleep in their marital bed, Leila was texting Jack.
Exactly. And the T-shirt covered in coke. Jack wasn't just hanging out in his flat. He and Leila were being intimate when Anton arrived unannounced.
Wow.
Jack rushed to throw his clothes on in the dark, which is why the shirt was inside out and backward.
And the murder itself. Anton comes to the flat to deal with the blackmail. But when he discovers a woman in the bedroom, he realizes it isn't just any woman.
It's Leila Kessler.
A married barrister, the former pupil of his colleague Julian. I mean, Anton holds the power to utterly destroy her career and her marriage in one sentence. To protect her secret, Leila or Jack, acting as her shield, though honestly, Leila's own inner monologue strongly implies she wielded the kettlebell strikes a fatal blow.
Yes.
The text drops into Leila's internal thoughts, and she says, I killed him, yes.
Yeah.
But it wasn't my fault. I had to do it. I never had a choice.
And Jack, loyal to a fault, takes the fall to protect her.
It's insane.
This elevates the concept of chicanery from a legal maneuver to a sociopathic art form. The author provides the definition of chicanery at the start of Part 2. A slick performance by a lawyer.
A slick performance.
Yeah. Leila isn't simply defending a client she knows is guilty. She's actively, methodically weaponizing the justice system to exonerate the man taking the fall for her own crime.
She is standing in open court, looking the judge in the eye, looking her own husband in the eye, and grilling a police detective about female hair and lipstick that she herself left at the crime scene. The audacity is staggering.
And she doesn't stop there.
No, she doesn't. To ensure Jack's story holds up, she breaks into Julian's locked study at home. She steals prosecution evidence, CCTV footage, linking Jack and Quinn, not to fulfill her duty as a defense attorney, but to actively manipulate the trial to save her own skin. So she broke into her own husband's locked study to steal prosecution evidence, not to save her client, but to save herself.
She goes even further than that. While the jury is sequestered, deliberating the verdict, Leila anonymously sends a video to the police, a video definitively proving that Quinn Smythe was driving the car that killed Louis Sorrington.
Wow.
This late-breaking evidence forces the police to arrest Quinn, completely validating the blackmail motive Jack presented on the stand.
She annihilates an 18-year-old boy's life just to cement her alibi. We have to talk about her psychology here, because this goes way beyond an ambitious lawyer crossing a line. I mean, how does someone rationalize this level of deception?
We have to look at the psychological architecture of trauma. The source text explicitly details Leila's horrific childhood abuse. She grew up in a volatile, dangerous environment overseen by a father who drilled a very specific sociopathic survival code into her.
The dad's rules.
Yes.
They are terrifying. Rule number 1, don't get caught. Rule number 3, knowledge is power. Rule number 12, always have a backup plan.
To survive her childhood, she utilized a coping mechanism akin to compartmentalization or a fractured identity. She constructed a pristine persona. Leila Reynolds, the hardworking, justice-seeking barrister who wants to be in the legal 500.
The bright star.
Right. But beneath that acceptable facade is her core, traumatized self-persona she internally names Delilah. When her survival is threatened, Delilah takes the wheel.
And Delilah is ruthless.
Delilah has no moral compass. Delilah is the entity that will commit arson, smash a judge's skull with a kettlebell, and manipulate an entire courtroom without a spike in her heart rate. Leila the barrister believes in the sanctity of the law. Delilah the survivor only obeys rule number 1. Don't get caught.
It's amazing how she turns Julian's arrogance into a weapon against him. She knows Julian is so obsessed with dominating her professionally, so blinded by his own ego, that he cannot perceive the reality standing right in front of him.
Precisely.
She uses the jury's desperate need for narrative fidelity, their desire for a romantic, noble underdog story, to blind them to the monster wearing the wig and robes.
Which brings us to the culmination of this theater. The jury returns to Court 1, and they deliver their verdict. They find Jack Millman not guilty.
Jack walks out of the dock a free man. But the true lingering horror of this novel, the thing that really makes your blood run cold, is that the real killer is the one packing up her legal files and walking out the front door of the courthouse. Leila Reynolds used the entire machinery of the British justice system as her personal alibi.
It perfectly encapsulates the deeply cynical theme of the book. The legal system is not a math equation that outputs the truth. It is a stage that rewards the architect of the most compelling narrative. Leila defeated Julian because she understood human nature better than he understood forensic pathology.
It leaves you with a deeply unsettling realization. I mean, think about an X-ray machine. You break your arm, the doctor takes an X-ray, you look at the bone on the screen, and you trust the result because it's science, it's objective.
Right, you don't question it.
But dissection of a murder makes you realize that when you step into a courtroom, the person operating the X-ray machine, the person interpreting the image, might just be the person who broke your arm in the first place.
It forces us to ask a terrifying question about the institutions we rely on. We place immense blind trust in the legal system to balance the scales and protect us from predators. But what happens when the architect of the defense, the very person sworn by code and oath to uphold the law, is the monster the system was built to catch? If a trial is merely a battle of stories, how can we ever trust the verdict of any narrative we are told?
That thought is going to keep me up at night. The next time you read a headline about a high-profile trial, ask yourself who is telling the story and what are they hiding in plain sight. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into dissection of a murder. Keep questioning the narratives you're handed, and we will catch you next time.